Hello, assembled internet. I am Fangmuffin and I live in Britain, where we have the NHS. This is an absolute shining jewel of an institution, true, free at point of use, universal healthcare, and I am incredibly proud and thankful to have access to it. However, when it comes to trans healthcare, oh boy, that system got some problems. This month, January 2018, marks a questionable anniversary, which is to say it has now been 3 years since my GP referred me to the Leeds GIC, which is to say the Gender Identity Clinic. And with that referral I began a waiting game of truly epic proportions. 2 years just for an initial appointment, and then after that another 3 months wait for a psychiatrist appointment to diagnose me with gender dysphoria. Really didn't need their opinion on that one, pretty much knew that already. A further 4 months to see an endocrinologist about getting a prescription for testosterone, and another couple of months after that for an appointment for a referral for surgery, which that appointment is a video for another day. In short, although I cannot overstate the wonder of having access to fully funded transition healthcare, the waiting game is enormous. It's far, far in excess of any of the targets that are given to the NHS for patient waiting times for any other form of healthcare that someone might need. And this, in a circular fashion, brings us round to where I'm going with this video. Why did I self-prescribe testosterone to myself for several years? Well, yeah, pretty much all the waiting. Everyone's experience is different. Not all trans people want hormones, but I, like many, really did. And like many in this position, I decided to just straight up buy them myself while I was waiting for an actual doctor to prescribe me some. I do need to say this is without doubt dangerous. These are prescription medications. Taking them without a prescription is illegal. And also, by definition, anyone that will sell them to you is selling them illegally, which means that identifying the safety of what you are buying is quite challenging. And I am not going to be the guy that sits here on the internet and tells you that buying illegal steroids and injecting yourself with them is a particularly good idea. What I will say is that it is what I needed to do to not completely lose my mind in the 2.5 years that I was waiting for a real prescription. And if you are also feeling like that is what you need to do, I feel you. It's hard to put into words how alienating your own body can feel, and how huge of a difference hormones can make to that if you are one of the people that really matters to. For me myself, I don't actually experience particularly debilitating dysphoria just when it's just me and my body. I don't particularly hate my body. However, it's more the social impact. Being repeatedly misgendered feels like every time it happens is like being stabbed in the brain, just a little bit, and over and over and over again, and it is kind of overwhelming. Now, as a person who, less so these days, but very much so a couple of years ago, works on the phone, the difference of my voice breaking was enormous. All of a sudden, every single customer that I spoke to gendered me correctly immediately. This made a huge difference to me, all in one go. An entire 8 hours a day phalanx of those little stabs just stopped. With regards to what I take this stuff. This is Testosterone 250. It's an incredibly common way for trans guys to receive testosterone. This particular prescription comes in little 1 milliliter ampules. This is essentially one dose. You typically take these, I think the standard prescription amount is 1 injection of this every 3 weeks. I personally take it every 2 weeks. That is on my specialist's advice, because everybody is different. Some people will go to their doctor's office to have a nurse inject this for them. Me, because I'd been doing it to myself for 2.5 years, I was just like, nah, just give me the stuff, I'll deal with it. What is in fact incredibly useful to transmasculine folks like myself is that there is another use for this stuff, and that is steroid abuse. Testosterone in all of its many forms is an anabolic steroid, and some bodybuilders and other gym bunnies will use very, very large doses of Sustanon and similar products to bulk up and build muscle mass. And thus, by the power of capitalism, this large market has caused an increase in availability and production and all of these sorts of things, meaning that actually you can acquire this stuff from a lot of very sketchy places really very cheaply. I used to buy a 10 milliliter, sort of a larger multi-use vial for 40 quid, and that would last me 3-4 months. And like most trans guys, that was the only medication I needed. Most trans guys do not require estrogen blocker or anything along those lines. Testosterone is a hell of a drug, and if you put it into your system, it will overpower or even stop production of estrogen entirely. As a result, the cost of self-medication was never actually a really huge concern. It was predominantly the safety concerns. I had mixed success with my GP. I mean, the main failing is that they would not just prescribe me the testosterone themselves, which in reality is actually the recommendation from the NHS, is the guidelines that are provided to GPs on this subject, is to actually prescribe it as a harm reduction measure to anybody who would otherwise do, well, what I was doing. However, one good point is that although they wouldn't prescribe me the medication, they did at least do the blood test that I requested. So I got the details off the internet of what I was meant to be keeping an eye on, went into my GP, they did the blood tests, I was able to use that to keep an eye on my lipid levels and protein levels and hormone levels and all of this sort of stuff. This is vital to do, although I'm not going to go into any of the specifics right now. When it comes to self-medication, our trans feminine siblings, however, are not so fortunate for two main reasons. Firstly, the medication is more complicated. Most adult trans women on HRT, at least those who haven't had lower surgery to permanently stop testosterone production, take two medications, the estrogen itself and also a testosterone blocker. The amount of estrogen taken also seems to be a lot less universal and a lot more variable. For instance, the amount of testosterone that I currently take, I will quite possibly be taking exactly that much for the entirety of the rest of my life. My girlfriend, on the other hand, it seems like every time she has a blood test, they tweak her levels and change her medication. The second main reason is, do you remember that thing I said about bodybuilders being a secondary market? As far as I can tell, that does not exist for the medication for trans women, which means that the only websites providing it is for this one very small community, and so it doesn't have the purchasing power. Women that I have known who have self-medicated have been spending hundreds of pounds a month doing so, and that's on top of the fears that I had about how safe it is to buy this stuff from somewhere other than a pharmacy. So, for anyone currently self-medicating, best of luck, be safe, do what you can. If you possibly can, do get your GP to monitor you. For anyone not currently in that position, I hope you learned something. There is an excellent charity called Action for Trans Health who do an awful lot of things, but among them they do campaigning to try and improve access to medication and training for medical professionals, and also advice for people who are in this position. So if you are struggling accessing medication, or if you're in a position to donate to a charity that does excellent work, details for Action for Trans Health are in the description. So on that note, hope your 2018 is going well. Thank you for joining me. Hopefully I'll speak to you again soon.